Listen, that last one's such a banger. I low key wanted to play it, but you know what I'm saying? We running on time today. What's up, my people? It's good to see everybody. It's good to see everybody. We got a new face on here. What's going on, Arnulfo? I don't think I've been able to get the chance to like literally meet you yet. So excited to be here with your brother for real, not for play. Good to see Squad on here this morning. Happy Saturday. It was an amazing week. It was definitely a character building week. You know what I'm saying? All of the above, but I'm excited to kick off this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, with everybody, man. This is a book that we read every single year. It's one of those ones that we really keep in the roto to make sure that, honestly, all of our members, as they are continuously plugging in, keep the main thing, you know, and that truly is financial literacy. It's the well-being of our whole being. It's literally upgrading our life, or else we wouldn't be here together. We wouldn't be reading the books. We wouldn't be learning the skills. We wouldn't be doing the things that it takes to get to the next level if we didn't actually want to go there. This book is one that will prepare you mentally for the next level and what you must do, as Robert Kiyosaki talks about, being the rich dad's advice versus the poor dad's advice. And I'm so excited for everybody who hasn't read this book at all to read it for the first time, and those of you that have read it one, two, maybe three times, maybe four times with us already. I'm so excited to hear everybody's take on it again as well, because every time that I've read this book, it's just solidified my knowledge and went deeper as well. Every single level, there's new stuff that you can learn when you hear things at different levels. They honestly just spark different activity. So excited to kick this thing off. Who's our lucky taker that wants to kick us off today, though? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Who's first, squad? Might be Marcus. He just got ready. Boom. Justin's unmuted. What's up, Justin? You want to take it off this morning?
Yeah, sure.
Let's get
I'm
it.
gonna be really quick too, like summarizing everything. I kind of like the intro of the book. Like, I didn't really get too deep into reading, but I definitely got a little bit understanding of it, and I asked for summarizations of things. And one thing I noticed is that it kind of reflects a little bit of the same thing from all the other types of books we read as well too, because they all teach you how to like not be trapped almost like in the Matrix and understand things. And I'm seeing here that like there's a rich dad, the rich dad, he wants you to be like a successful entrepreneur and he teaches the importance of making money work for you. And then the poor dad, he's just like under the government and he believes working for money. Well, he believes in working for money and values job security. Like I understand and I can relate to both on both ends because those are transitions of change that's going on and mindset changing that's going on as well too. And I feel like I'm transitioning as well. So some quotes that I see here that it's like summarizes like the poor and middle class work for money and the rich have money work for them. I believe that that's really true. And I also noticed that a lot of times in my life personally that um in the early stages of life when I didn't have knowledge and I didn't understand how money worked, that I was working in circles. But then the more as I kept working towards trying to grow myself, I started getting around different people and things like that, that money can be used to do all that work, all that circular work that is like in a cycle and that's keeping people trapped. And I was just thinking about it. I'm like, it's kind of really cool how they brought that up again, but in a different way. And it's more direct here and like foundational. And another thing that's cool to me was that emotion is like energy that's in motion. I never thought of emotion like that. Like I never knew that's how people like view emotion, the word, and that was cool to me as well. I don't know if you guys like have any other thoughts on that as well too, but that was something that stuck out to me. And then yeah, like I was saying earlier, most people never study like money. Like we don't have what is the word? Financial education. Like I realized like early on in my life that financial education is like it's not it's not normalized. It wasn't normalized when I was growing up. I hope it's normalized now, but it was crazy because I had to just go to a private school, a private Catholic school. And I'm not even Catholic. I don't know, like I'm Christian, but if I'm correct, Catholic Christian, it's not the same exact religion. So I had to go there and they
Under
taught
the same umbrella, bro. It's just
on the same umbrella.
yeah,
But
just
yeah,
different practices. Yep.
yeah, and I went there and I was just like realizing that like I had to go to a private school just to get a simple, you know, class or simple lesson regarding financial education. And at that, it wasn't even like really, big. And it kind of wowed me now down the line, realizing that those things that, say for example, my she was her name was Miss Park back then. She was making it a big deal to have these classes, but the school wasn't making it important. So it kind of stuck with me now that those things were really important, and it's like reflecting the future now. It's kind of hitting me different. And another quote is if you learn life's lessons, you will do well. If not, life will just continue to push you around. And that's something that I realized this week too. Um, like just the other day, I texted, well, I don't know if it was yesterday or not the other day, it was probably yesterday. I texted Mikkel and I was letting him know that I was gonna be a little bit more like, what's the word? Like I may miss out on some things every now and then because I realize that I don't want to just, just soak up things. I want to like do things too, Like I want to be active and get things going. So I realized that like a part of me is just sitting there, but I'm not doing enough and I need to do more. So I can definitely agree with that quote and opportunities come and go. And being able to know when to make a quick decision is an important skill because you never know what's gonna be in front of your face. Like there's always the get money syndrome where you're always trying to get more money, but sometimes making the right decision is all it takes for you to take yourself to the next level. And yeah, I really like how this book introed from the last book. And that's all I have to say.
All right, brother. Great take, man. You can go ahead and popcorn whoever.
Oh, I'm gonna popcorn to Mateo.
Yo, what's going on, people? My brethren, it's a beautiful Saturday. We got
19.
good things to look forward to. Um, I mean, essentially, bro, first of all, Justin, I appreciate you hopping on today, bro. We called slightly before this call, and Justin was telling me how important it is for him that he starts taking the intentional action to be able to implement the stuff that we're learning. And I really, really want to shout him out for that because we are. And I know I've been caught doing this too, where like we're so absorbed in absorbing the information like a sponge. But what's a sponge actually meant for, right? It's meant for cleaning. It doesn't matter how much water, how much soap the sponge absorbs unless it's actually being used for cleaning, right? So we really have to do that work to really, step in to our lives as the leaders of our life correctly, right? For the people that we serve and the people that we love for it, right? Um, but yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad. This is a book that has been read dozens and hundreds of times by many, many people. I've read it myself twice. This is the third time I've read it, but I haven't read it in a good like couple years. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I'm very much looking forward to going through this more again. Now, in this book, there's the main character, right? And he has two people in his life. He has his actual biological dad, who's his poor dad, and he's not to say that he's poor, like he just has a poor mindset because he's actually pretty like he's doing good for himself. He's got himself a house. His dad's hardworking man, right? But he has a mindset towards money and towards a lot of other things that money speaks into as well that was frustrated. But it was frustrating him because of the lack mindset and the victim mindset that can result. Or no, the victim mindset is the cause of the result of not having as much money as you'd like. That's literally the cause and effect there. But then he has a rich dad he's not physically related to him, but he's more of a father figure in his life. And I relate a lot to this because I actually never knew my biological father, fun fact. So I've had to seek out certain relationships in my life as I grow into the man that I want to be for my children that I have in the future, right? And I think that's to be said about everybody here. Like we might not have the people in our life that we were born into to be able to show us how to create the family we want. So if we haven't had those people in our life, in our own family, to be able to show us how to create the wealth and the riches that we want, then the rich family is going to come from us, right? Like you can literally change the entire directory of your bloodline if you really think about it. So keeping that in mind, um, the first chapter, I'm not gonna lie to you, is pretty basic. Like as they go into the actual like numbered laws of this, the first and foremost thing you have to understand is that money's a tool and it can control you or you can control it. I feel like money is something very similar to how your mind works. I mean, Think and Grow Rich, right? Like the mind's a terrible master, but a great servant. So is money. And you can't serve two masters. That's in the Bible. You cannot serve two masters. And when you're serving money, this is something that a lot of people get caught in. And I feel like the new trap in the day and age that we're living in is hustle culture. And I want to speak about this and compare it and connect it to what the book talked about because I was directly involved in this. And this is something that I'm now learning to unlearn as we go ahead and we move into these next phases of our life that are going to see blessings that we've never seen before. Because you have to do different things to get different results, right? But that being said, a lot of people have been brought up in the 9 to 5 culture, and there's nothing wrong with having a 9 to 5, right? You already, bro, Arnulfo. That's a fire name, bro. Arnulfo. That's cool. Yeah, but no, hustle culture. You probably are. Yeah, you already know what I'm about to get into. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5. I salute my people that build our roads, that service our hospitals, EMTs. Shout out to Marcos. People that do different things that require a job. Like that's very good and necessary. But if that's not your calling, then that's not your calling, and that's okay too. With that being said, a lot of people get stuck in hustle culture, like Arnolfo was just saying. With hustle culture, it's encouraged to work and work and work and work and grind and grind and grind, right? But they forget that they're not supposed to. I mean, you can if you want to. Like, I'm not saying this is bad, but it's not something that I feel like the topic of this book is really trying to create and expand your mind into the idea of not living to work, but working to live. Does that make sense? Like I'm personally becoming a trader every week, like trade by trade, right? Rest is needed. That's very true. So I don't live to trade. I'm not out here trying to trade 24/7, weekends, holidays, birthdays, I want to be able to trade to live outside of working. And that's the key there. That's the difference. There's a huge difference there. And that and this is actually a crazy album. I've been listening to this, Mikkel, ever since, and literally anytime I drive, I don't listen to music anymore, bro. I listen to this one album on Spotify. You already know what album I'm talking about. It's on Spotify, and I'm gonna hold it up to the camera. You people take a picture or a screenshot or whatever. It's called The Road to Seven Figures. This album has so much game, people. And I haven't even listened to like the other stuff by Justin Owens, but he has like a bunch of albums. So I'm just still absorbing this because every time I listen, I hear something different. You know what I mean? So that being said, I was listening to Justin Owens yesterday because I had a bunch of different errands to go run for my mom, and something about poor and middle class and rich and wealthy people is their job consumes their life. Like they literally live to work, and that's not something that I personally want to do with my life. I prefer to work, create some sort of a value system that I can serve and provide people with that then allows me to have the freedom, right? That's the whole goal is freedom to be able to live however I want and create the life I want, make the impact I want in people's life around me. So money is such a like key important tool. Like I personally, I know if I had the money that I am attracting, not chasing, right? Attracting into our life, then I would not be here right now. I would be across the world with the love of my life. but I don't have that money in my pockets currently. I have it in my mind, but it's not manifested into reality yet. So as we go ahead and we move into these next chapters in our life, as we continue to read these books, keep that in mind that money's a tool and it's created in your mind first by how you think. And when you put that thought into action, that creates the power that it requires to create the money because money's a tool. It's not about you don't serve money. Money serves you. So just keep that in mind. I think I just kind of said a lot. Did my best to really, you know, outline it clearly without being so much of a word vomit, but I appreciate everybody here for listening to me. I'm gonna pass this along to Amber. I know she just turned on her camera. I don't think she's gone yet.
What's up, everybody? Hey, how are y'all? I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm grateful for this conversation and going over this book. In the Powerful Creator community, we're reading this book as well, and so it is super great to double up on the info. I wrote a blog on chapter one, and like I can't find it on my website, so I need to figure that out. But I've been super deep diving into like the information in this book, and there's just so much, and it's really, really foundational. And I mean, just in chapter one and like the intro chapter, one of the things that I took away from it was, I mean, him just emphasizing like the power in our thoughts and the power in our choice. And us choosing to be financially literate is a very, very, very powerful choice. And I believe it was Justin who said it earlier that having financial literacy and financial IQ like wasn't a thing, like and it's true. Like it's not like he talks about it more in the book that it's not something that is made important. Like it's not considered an intelligence. And one of the things that I really got from it as well, whenever I don't know if it was this chapter or the next, but just emphasizing that the reason why the rich get ahead is because the poor middle class are too busy working to be able to educate themselves and become financially literate. They just they just outsmart them, And so since we know that, I believe it is wise to, and he talks about this too, to use your job and use your 9 to 5 to build up your investments while you learn and while you literally build your life. And so there's just like so much. The like financial IQ is a thing, and it's very like it's specific, just like emotional IQ. And then there's business IQ, and then there's relationships IQ. Like there's different intelligence for different areas of our lives. And I believe that it's like me, I'm very the way my brain works, like I have to see things. And so whenever he broke that down, he kept emphasizing that. It really helped me understand, like, okay, like this is a specific area, because when it comes to learning our finances and learning financial IQ, there's a lot of information out here. There's a lot of info and there's a lot of steps, and it could feel overwhelming. And I know for me, that's how I felt for a long time. It was really, really overwhelming. And I didn't have the steps. I mean, I said I didn't have the steps. I mean, I did, we had these books, you do have the steps, but the support to help, put the steps together, and I think one of the things that I'm going through, I'm experiencing emotionally during the process of studying this book and doing the work. And I say this just because I feel like this is really real, and this is something that maybe will resonate with other people as well. But there's an emotional process that I'm experiencing right now where I am having to, forgive my parents for not doing certain work, but also like having an empathy towards understanding that they didn't have the support systems that we have also, right now I am like, just doing a lot of financial foundation work within myself, within my family, to really set us up with success. And of course, we know like one of the first steps is awareness, and is really seeing where you're at. And it's really, really important. And so recently, in the past couple of months, I've really gotten a clear view of where my family's at when it comes to finances. And just to be 100% transparent with you, we are starting from scratch. Like I am literally the one in my family who's going to build any type of assets whatsoever. And as I was going through this process, we're humans. Like I've dealt with like resentment, with frustration, with anger towards it. And recently I've been able to tap in to a perspective that has just like empowered me more. And I just started to really tell myself that, you know what, no, like they did do enough. My dad did do enough for me to be who I am, to for me to learn these steps. My dad did work hard. My parents did work hard. They weren't lazy. They didn't just not want to do it. And when I look back at the story of my life and see what my parents were doing, it's exactly what Robert Kiyosaki was talking about. They were working. My parents were working day in and day out every single day, like sitting down, educating themselves, studying, doing all that. There was not any support for that at all, And so I've decided to, forgive and let go and take away any judgment and just really step into my power and say, like, no, like I have those resources because they worked hard, because my dad did the work to make sure that I had a roof over my head all the time, that we were always fed, that I went to school, that like he did exactly what he needed to do for me to be able to take these steps. And I'm grateful for that. I'm very, very grateful for that. And so with that being said, we can do this, and one thing that I just like to wrap this up that I experienced recently is I was sitting here and I was doing the work, studying, applying, and I had this feeling where I just felt like it started to get very simple. Like it started to work. Like there's things growing, there's things happening. And emotionally, psychologically, there's like this feeling inside of me of like, if it's so fucking easy, why haven't we been doing it? How come it hasn't been done? Like, why can they do it? And then I realized, like, no, Amber, like that's not the perspective to have. It's easy because you've done the work to set yourself up to be for it to be easy. This is the third, fourth time you read this book. This is you built the foundation for yourself. You know what I mean? So this easiness, this flow that you're in is not for you to doubt yourself. Because, like, to be honest, sometimes I feel that I'm like, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Like maybe like I'm missing something because like, how is this like, but no, like, no, we are doing the actual steps that it takes to build financial freedom, to build a strong financial foundation. And I'm just really, really grateful for that. And I'm just continuing allowing myself to step into that because, there's the spiritual side to it, the emotional side to it, and like the practical side to it. And at the end of the day, we just got to follow the steps, stay consistent, learn the different puzzle pieces and put them together. And as we do that, believe and know that everything is coming together, that we are gathering the pieces, that we're not too late, that everything like that we desire is coming. And as long as we stay clear and hold that vision, it will never, ever, ever go away. And every single day we're making that choice. We get to make that choice. We get to make that choice that we're doing something differently. And so if you're in the middle of making that choice, I love you and I'm here for you. And this is not an easy choice. Like he talked about, like there's two different roads, and sometimes it's not always easy. It doesn't always feel good. It's not always fun, but it's worth it. It's so, 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 so worth it because, to be honest, like I'm not going to continue the same pattern that my family has. Like, no, there's no way at all whatsoever. Like, it's not happening. We're making changes, and I am so grateful. So that's what I have to share for the first two chapters. I am going to click on Sam.
Good morning, family. I'm actually at a hospital with my grandpa, so I'm going to keep this very short. I appreciate all of y'all's takes. And yeah, as the second time reading this book, you just gather more information. And I love y'all's takes. I love that perspective, Amber, you were talking about. And yeah, really just breaking cycles because yeah, I can speak to that too, we inherit a lot from our family, our whole environment creates everything that we know because like they say, you don't know what you don't know because you've never experienced something new. So growing up, you know our family, man, it was drilled into my head. My dad used to work as a and he worked for the Boston American Statesman, and as a newspaper route, if you didn't show up one day, the next day you didn't have a job. So I remember being in like seventh grade, a kid, and he would wake me up on a school night at 11 p.m. Say, "Hey, come on, you got to work with me." And he just drilled into my head that you do what you have to do. You do what you got to do. You do what you got to do. You need to go to work and do what you got to do, even if you don't want to. So that was a core principle that was drilled into my head because that's what he knew. And that's what his father told him. As his my grandpa built a construction business, ended up selling that for multiple six figures, and did not teach his children how to do the same. And I remember hearing that and understanding that it was just a shock to me how my grandpa could build a successful construction business and not pour into his children to do the same thing. So, as my parents, I'll speak to my dad as my dad grew up, in the shadows of a successful businessman, always looking how to get there, but never having the guidance to do that. And I just always thought, like, how could you not pour into your children and and have them succeed in a way that you did as well, especially having experience. So um, I just took that to heart, and that really just lights a fire in me to learn these principles, do everything on the daily work. So when I have a family of my own, I would never let them fend for themselves in ways like that. And so I really have to speak to, your environment creates who you are. And that's why we gather around in groups like this and we talk to people with the same mindset. And it really is, Amber said it as clear as can be. It's a decision. And going back to Coach CJ's last Valley session, it's a decision. It's a decision to be here. We blow up people's phones. They see notifications. It's a decision to click on that, to be here. And I'm proud of each and every one of us to continuously showing up because this is the steps, like Amber said, this is the work that we are doing to create that foundation so we can pass on to our future generations. So, I just have to applaud every single one of us and just keep that in mind. But speaking to the book, man, this is definitely one. People say this book changes their life because it really is a philosophical switch in money. We are just conditioned from beginning of school and our education system to work for money, trade our time for money. They don't say it specifically like that because they make it sound nice. They make it sound like it comes with a lot of bells and whistles, but you're essentially trading your life for something that doesn't even have true value, intrinsic value. Learn what it is, but it's just we call it a rat race because we've seen behind the curtain, we've seen behind the door, we've seen other ways of living. And so these are the principles that will help us get there once we understand them, and not only understand them but apply them. So because knowledge isn't power, the application of knowledge is the true power. So once we learn all of this, really put it into action, that let me see. I had some notes from. Let me see. It's just. I'll keep it short because I got to go back. But you're the really, like, yeah, your relationship with money is inherited through the people that your family, like I was saying. And man, Mateo really said it right. He said, we don't chase money. You have to attract it. You have to be a magnet. The law of attraction is real. The laws of the universe are here and we live by them. And it really is, it really is a paradigm shift to be financially free. You really have to rewire your brain. I've lived one way 28, 29 years of my life one way, and to rewire them has been a lot of work to just unravel these core principles. Like I said, my father poured into me, drilled into me. You do what you got to do what you got to do. And throughout the fear, of quitting my job and going into this full time, yeah, you have that voice in the back of your head, but that's the self doubt. That's that fear. That's what has controlled every single person around me to continue to do the things that they've always done, which is trade their time for money. And as my parents are getting older, getting closer to retirement, it's just crazy because I used to think the same way. I used to work at a warehouse, a grocery warehouse, and they made it sound so nice that I was blindly going to give 40 years of my life to retire with that. I was blindly committed 40 years of my life to go ahead and retire with that company. I would say, fortunately, unfortunately, I got in trouble and got fired, and I believe it could have been the best thing of my life because, like I said, I was going to just work my whole life away, which is insane to think now. The person I am today, that was just a couple years ago. Just gonna blindly give my whole life to somebody else's dream rather than go after my own. And it wasn't until I met these intentional individuals around me, like yourselves, that allowed me to have that paradigm shift, and books like this that allow you to solidify that paradigm shift. So I encourage you to lean into the uncomfortability because as I've dove into this, I hit my year, and it's been life changing, and many conversations that I've been poured in by my leaders, by my mentors, to lean into the uncomfortability, to understand that growth only happens when you're uncomfortable. And it really is, it really can be scary, but understand that fear has controlled a majority of my life. And I don't know if that resonates with anybody, but fear has controlled a majority of my life. And it's these principles that would allow you the confidence to not only face that, but overcome it. So y'all, everyone's take was fire. I really got to keep this short. I love y'all. And let me see. Let me call on. Can I call on Chi Town? Are you available? Much love, family.
Much love. I'm here. Definitely run me up. Yo, Sam, you ate with that. Everybody who has spoken thus far has like hit every point needed, especially I don't know if y'all already read the book. Some of y'all sound like y'all read the book because I've read this book. This is my fourth time, but yeah, y'all are all on point, and it makes so much sense why the group has the members it has because everyone is already reprogramming their brain to be full-time investors within themselves, their craft, and their development. So shout out to everybody on this call. Um, my first time reading this book was back in 2016 when I first got into World Ventures. I know some of y'all know, some of y'all was a part. Trauma stories, we're gonna trauma bond later. But my upline had provided me this source, and I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was just like, what? I gotta read? Like, why I gotta read the books? Like, and I never forget the first chapter is what made me go, wow, like I never even realized that there is a choice between working for money and making money work for you. So it really impacted me from the first time I read it. This time being an entrepreneur and full-time in the space, quitting my full-time job, focusing and locking in full-time with the crafts and the self-development. Not only is it a whole different read and perspective, although, like I said, I'm very familiar with the book, it hits different. It hits different because, like you said, like I'm 30 now, rewiring my brain for the last 12 months from 29 years of wiring and working hard and knowing that you got to work to go get it. It's an insane transformation. So what I've gotten, especially rereading it from the intro in the first chapter, is you have three choices actually. You have the choice to be the worker, you have the choice to be you have the choice to be poor dad, you have the choice to be rich dad, and you have the choice to make no change whatsoever. And I think that's very empowering when you're, like I said, reading it from a new perspective, like transforming from poor dad to rich dad in a sense. It takes on a whole different meaning. And I think one of my favorite parts was is in the first chapter when he's kind of so excited to start a business and he gets his friend and he's like, Mom, I got to do this. And mom's like, yo, you got to get out. And he's about to get quote unquote evicted from from his workspace. And the tools needed to build his invention is about to get discarded. I felt that on a personal level because it's like when you're at the very beginning of a transformation or an intro to what you actually want to try or build within your future, and you start to really see the conflicts and the struggles around it, you start to either you make one or two choices, fight or flight. And even as a 9-year old, I could still relate as a 30-year old. When you want something that bad, you're gonna fight for it. And as you thought about it prior to actually taking the action, you would have probably took flight. You know, you probably would have just discarded it, or you know what, never mind, I don't want to do it. It sounds too hard. I think it's too hard, all of that. But when you're already in the motion and you're already working towards something, there is no give up. There is no option B. There is no I'm gonna do something else or I'm gonna find another, like you're gonna figure it out, you know? And I feel like that's the best part about being an entrepreneur and anybody in the space of building for yourself, building for your family, your brand, just figuring it out because the answers are not gonna be predetermined. Thank you, Marcus. There is no tomorrow, especially in the life we live. There is no tomorrow. And the Bible speaks on it. Worry not about tomorrow because nothing is guaranteed past what you have and already had, right? And going back to what Justin said, we do not learn financial education. And I thought about it growing up. I'm extremely good at math, always have been. That's been my top subject. Back in the day, we used to get threes and four report cards. All fours was in math, all threes was in reading, couldn't stand a book. But give me an equation, I got you, you know? And I got to high school and I realized, like, yo, y'all giving us things like French, but I can't learn finances. Like, why is that not a thing? And I was raised by my grandparents, so you know they're old school in a lot of ways. But when it comes to banking, you know that they like write out checks and stuff. So that was kind of the minuscule version of like banking and finances that I've learned. But then I realized like I don't really know finances like I thought I knew it. So reading this book the first time, I was just like, oh wow, I'm really not financially literate like I thought I was. So this book is really a game changer. Hands down, this book is a game changer. And once you realize, like I said, once you realize which dad you really want to be, first you have to analyze which dad you are. It's either you have the knowledge and you're not applying it, you don't have the knowledge and you don't know you have the don't have the knowledge, or you have partially have the knowledge but you know you're missing something so you seek more knowledge, right? Just choosing, realizing which dad you are and then choosing to be the dad you want to be is really life changing. And I can't wait to continue to not only hear other perspectives on this book but get through it from now an entrepreneurial, more financially aware mindset. So that's my take on chapter one, well, intro in chapter one. And yeah, I'm gonna pass this thing off to, I don't, how do you pronounce your name? Arnaud? How do you pronounce your name? On somebody say it for me. Help me out.
Arnolfo.
With the accent too. Yeah,
Arnolfo.
yeah.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, runner up, y'all.
Run me
Arnolfo,
up is
hear us, man. The way we be running it.
Hey, you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
got me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you get popcorn, bro, you got a couple minutes. You can share your biggest takeaways, or if you haven't read quite yet, you could share what stood out from what the rest of the squad has discussed so far. But you got
So
it.
yeah, I haven't read the book. I've got a couple other books studying sales training, like Chris Voss techniques and how to ask questions they haven't stand in the way. Those are more of the books I'm in right now. Definitely heard about um, Rich Dad Poor Dad a lot. I've been encouraged to read it. Just haven't bought the book yet, but I have had a lot of mindset zooms about it and going over listening over, listening to you guys and have a lot of similarities. I'm a single dad of two kids. So I'm raising two boys, and I understand the importance of having the financial literacy on lock. And something that I wasn't brought up with.
I'm a first generation citizen. My parents were immigrants. My mother was from El Salvador, and my dad was from Mexico, and we grew up in LA, and that was a LA was a trip. Man, you have a lot of you know there was a lot. It was a power city, and we just didn't have that education. I don't think our school systems are designed to teach us these things, especially back then. And I was brought up, yeah, you get up, you work, and you save money, and then you buy a house, and you just work, work, work. And with me being a single dad, I had to really change that kind of perspective. I was a mechanic. I was making decent money. I was a diesel mechanic, but now that I'm raising my boys, I need to be present and having that freedom to be a present father was important. And the best way was to be better with my finances. And here I am now, and definitely understand how important it is to educate oneself. And I'm just a mechanic, man. I'm not a smart guy. I don't read 1,000 books a day or whatever. I mean, I do what I can, and I soak up as much as you can. Just like we were talking about sponges, you soak it up, but you also have to apply the 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 discipline of applying what you learn is very important, and teaching, pour out into other people, and be an example, and show the people that may not know what you know, to help their lives too. So it's something that I believe intensely. My kids, I teach them what I learn about trading, or what I learn about real estate. I teach them. I talk to them about them. I talk to them about assets. So uh, uh, I remember, I don't know who was talking about, their grandparents not teaching their kids, but definitely I was in that same boat. My mom taught me how to work hard. I got my hard work method instilled through my mother. She was a single mom for a while too before she met my stepdad, and I learned a lot. I remember she told me, "Hey, you can put any 18-year-old next to me, and I'll outwork them any day." And that was the kind of the hustle culture that I was brought into. Just to grind, 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 grind. But life is not all about just grinding and working for oneself. It's also about, um, you know, building generational wealth and passing it on, and not only to your immediate family, but to other people that need it. And I've been blessed to be in this group, and this is my first week, and I'm still learning. I'm still figuring things out, but definitely I'm getting a lot from you guys, and I appreciate you guys sharing. That's all I got. I don't know what's the next process. Do I got to pick on somebody, or how's it go?
Yeah, bro. Normally we'd have you popcorn somebody, but real quick, just because you said you don't have the book yet, I wanted to take this quick second and actually share it with everybody, because I know there's a couple brand new people on here, exactly where to find the book real fast. And then you can popcorn anybody. Just hit the chat, pick a name, bro. Hit the chat, say the name. You know what I'm saying? No thing. But real quick, I'm going to just share my screen super fast and show everybody where to find this thing. Bow, bow. Hey, shout out to Powerful Creator. They've been snapping. I was looking at your website. You know what I'm saying? But in that, I was like, whoa, this is smooth. I was looking at all of it. When you sent it in the chat, I happened to go and read the blog, and I was like, yo, you're snapping. But you slide in here, and once you go to the EDU suite on tgfnetwork.com, or if you're in our app and you go to the book club actual tab, once you're in there, there will be a button that pops up, and it'll say digital library number one. Inside of the digital library number one, there's going to be different folders. So give me a second and let this pull up, y'all. My computer always wants to go super slow. I have extra tabs. I need those. Bow, bow, bow. Boom. So once you slide into digital library number one, you're going to have hella different folders in there as well. In all of these folders, when it pulls up on the phone, the money, wealth, and finances one looks like MON and then like CES or something like that, because it kind of just skips the rest of the word, has some dots in the middle. inside of the Money, Wealth, and Finance joint. Boom, when you click in here, it's like Jeopardy. Boom. So once this logs in here and you get all the way in here, you start to see little things like Robert right here, cash flow quadrant. That is not the book. Retire Young, Retire Rich. That is not the book. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the book. I recommend these two. They're actually phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? You should go read them. We reference this one a lot in our life. But in that, the book is right here. You tap on the PDF and you can download this thing right to whichever device that you are looking at it on. So in that, y'all got access to the book. We here, I just real quick wanted to show everybody that. And did my man send a name in the chat? If he didn't,
No, I appreciate that. I got that on lock. And then
hey,
the first
got you,
I'm
bro.
going to pick is Deshaun.
Boom. Let's get it. He said, "Good looking, bro," and slid right in there. You got called, player. What's up?
Yo, no, what's going on, y'all? Pretty much, I actually is a funny story, real quick. Cause I like to read, so I had asked my mom to give me Rich Dad Poor Dad, and she got me cash flow quadrant like a while back. But I always thought that was funny because I swear I thought I read this book, and I'm like, damn, he got a few of them. But pretty much like, just from what I've heard, I'm actually really excited to read this book. This is one of my top books that I want to read because I've always had the entrepreneur mindset, but I didn't have the workflow and that follows with it. I kind of always shied away from results. So like if I would get a result that wasn't right, or if things didn't go my way, I kind of like I wouldn't say shy away, but I would definitely get like oh no, just kind of like damn like is it worth it? Is it all like a dream instead of actually making it happen? So, I've been a part of World Ventures. I've been a part of like many network marketing companies, and as everyone knows that like it's a lot of hard work that got to go with it. So it's like I've always had the mindset, but I didn't always have the hard work. So with this book, it's just honestly understanding finances, especially in my life right now. Like if I could be transparent right now, don't have it financially. I always keep it real. That's just what I do. To get started, I was $10 short. I had to ask Mikhail, like, hey man, send me the 10, if you could send me the $10. And as a 32-year-old man with 6 kids, that shit gets embarrassing. But it's like it adds fuel to the fire to where it's just like, all right, I've grown up knowing sports. I've grown up knowing like hard work, but I didn't grow up knowing finances. And not to take away from my parents, but it's like no one ever sat them down to, understand finances, to understand what it takes to like financially set yourself free, financially set your kids up free. And so it's like I'm just really excited to go on this journey as far as like really learning about like the importance of finances and how to make money work for you. I think I heard someone say that you know the you attract the money. It's like once you change your mindset and you start to attract the money, that's when everything starts flowing and everything starts to make sense. So it's like as I'm sharpening my brain, as I'm sharpening my tools, I've never been a part of a book club, so this is dope. Like just being around people where it's a Saturday morning, we could be doing whatever. People we could have been hungover, we could have been doing whatever. And but we're here today to where it's like we bouncing off ideas, and so I just found out where to find the book too. So it's just I'm actually excited to like dive into the book of and then just really just see how on this journey how it changes to where it's like I read every day and I apply it to life. So it's like like that school settings, like go to school, get good grades, get a good job, but it's like okay, cool, now if I read and apply this to my mindset, let me change my life with it. So that's really pretty much what I'm excited about. I'm definitely gonna catch up so then next week I can have more direct answer of exactly what we talking about. But I thought I've had this book, but I got cash flow quadrant. So I read that. So we was talking about that. I got y'all. But no, but like I'm definitely excited, man. So, I appreciate y'all. And then I'm a popcorn. Uh Imani, did you go? Yeah, I'm popcorn, Imani.
Oh,
Good morning, everyone. LA gang gang. That's what I'm talking about. Arnolfo, are you still on? Yes, you're still on. Okay, so like I just wanted to speak on that real quick because born and raised LA, I won't say city girl, but like no, literally grew up in an urban community and in the heart of LA, there's so much like you could tell where the segregation lines were. You can tell whose schools and whose neighborhoods have the better education, whose schools like it's actually crazy because I've met so many people in LA. I know so many people out there because like I've moved a lot when I was a kid and I've gone to a lot of different schools. And when I talk to certain people who grew up in areas that their property taxes are able to pay for much better schooling, there is a huge difference. So with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I have this book. I have the version that's celebrating 20 years. So he actually pops in like little 20 year, kind of like a recap almost, or just like an update. And it's actually really interesting to see because some of them are like talking about just like the debt, how the debt, the education, like the how do you say, like basically where we are at now versus where he was when the book came out. And obviously all of these lessons are still so powerful. The game changes. No, the player changes. The game never stays the same. And I think I said that the last time we were reading this book because it's all facts. Um, Unfortunately, for some of us, we didn't have that kind of access. So being in a book club now, hey, better late than never. They always talk about, oh, Mr. General Chicken, I forgot his name, the guy from KFC. He freaking, this man was 80 years old. I'm sorry. He was like 80 years old when he sold the KFC recipe, and nobody was trying to mess with him. And finally, I forgot. He was just like, rich old man. Oh, well, you're going to outlive your money. That was actually something either in this book. It was in this book. I can't remember if it was like a 20-year update, but it was basically saying that people are going to outlive your money. So it really doesn't matter like when you get started. Like it's all about you getting started. So in the first chapter, yeah, it's too late. I'm in too deep. In the first chapter, they talk about how y'all know how Mike and Robert were collecting these toothpastes from the neighborhood and started making counterfeit money out of them, which they took that so literally. Like, yeah, you can make money. And they're like, okay, say less. Let's make money. And they did. And unfortunately, they had to learn the hard way that it's counterfeiting. But they started. And as young as they were, I beat you to it, Marcus. Um, they literally, it's so cute though. Like being a 9-year-old kid, imagine walking up on your 9-year-olds and seeing that not only have they hustled the neighborhood out of their toothpaste cans or their toothpaste tubes, they actually decided, let's do something about it. And those thoughts at age 9, at age 9 or age 90, um, that's the thing that gets you started. When I first read the book, I knew she was gonna do that. Hold on. Okay. So at age 90, you do whatever. I'm putting my phone on do not disturb, y'all. My bad. Okay. So, um, anyways, let me get just on this. So, in the intro, he has two dads, as we know. One, I like how he actually mentions that both of them were struggling starting out because anytime and like for the group, like anytime a person is learning anything new, it is going to be a struggle. So sometimes I would feel like that lack mentality, like I'm not good enough or I'm not doing things right. In reality, I just have to give myself time. And I'm sure people can relate to that. It's like it gets frustrating when you want something so bad, and but then you start doing the work for it, and then it's like, oh, remember that wasn't unlimited a couple years ago when we were talking about that. Like you start learning everything, you get discouraged, and then you either quit or you plateau and keep going and actually make your goals. Or some people quit, start something else, and then start a cycle of it over and over. It's like, no, you just gotta push through. Like you can't give up. So for his poor dads, he had two different dads with two different mentalities. One was the love of money is the root of all evil. The other is the lack of money is the root of all evil. So they already have two different mindsets, two different perspectives on life. One's going to school, one dropped out eighth grade, and he had luckily these two different perspectives. And he also mentions that he chose for himself what he wanted to do. I know later in the book, which I'm not going to jump ahead that far, but he does talk about how he basically came on up with his own style of things. And that's all a person can do, like after learning from so many different perspectives. Like we learn forever, but eventually we become masters of our craft, masters of this life, and are able to teach more people. So to go back to, you know, money not being taught in school, obviously it's because our government is so corrupt. They want the classism. Don't get me started because I will. They want it like that. You learn in school how to be a professional because if you're a prof, it all comes from the industrial complex. So they want people to be working out here, not freaking rising above to a certain level because they want to keep the 1%. And it's not just America, it is the world, unfortunately. So to have so many things stacked up against us, but to be in book club on a Saturday morning, like, let's be real, this is the way we can break these chains. It is a rat race. It's like modern day slavery. It's really disgusting, but just changing ourselves a little bit. It's easier to change ourselves than it is to change the world. If we change ourselves, we can inspire and grow and learn, and other people will follow suit. So um he mentions like our government, that they don't know how to deal with money, which I find it very ironic because Donald Trump is our president right now, and he actually does know how to deal with money, even though he's gone bankrupt a couple times and he's a felon, but still he does know money. So like right now, it's interesting because we're in the age of Aquarius, which is all about innovation and bringing together spirituality and science. So there needs to be like this convergence, and that's what's going on right now. So like even with his two dads, he had two different sides, and him himself brought them together just because of his different perspective and his outlooks on life. Okay. It's all about mindset. Your house is not your house is a liability. And one of the 20-year updates, it's like talking about the 2008 crash, which was sad because a lot of poor people were given houses and loans even though they couldn't afford it. And then, of course, they lost it. And so all these houses ended up going under foreclosure, which the wealthy profited on that like crazy. Good time to be rich at that moment, or at least have something in your pocket, because it just kind of goes to show that certain systems that seem right, like the whole American dream, buy a house, get a good job, that stuff don't work no more. It does not. You have to have financial intelligence. You also have to have emotional intelligence as well. He mentions, and again, I know I don't think the one in the digital library, or maybe everybody doesn't have the same version, but that is something that he pops up talking about emotional intelligence of that mindset, that wealth mentality. When his dad is just, his rich dad is like, listen, I am not, I don't do broke stuff. He said, I'm a rich man and rich people don't do this. So that's literally it. Like, continue with that rich mentality. Even when your bank account's a little low, it don't matter. Like, it's all about your mindset, your emotional state, because money doesn't know like good or bad, sad, happy. It just is energy and it's going to flow wherever you go. So just keep that in mind. That's what I have to keep in mind when I'm out here feeling like, oh, shit, I'm broke. It's like, not really, because my money going where it needs to go. I'm just like needing to continue to learn how to make money and like change that mindset, because then it will continue to grow. Last time I read this book, I don't know where I was at. I really don't remember. When did we read this book last? Well, yeah, but like when?
It was a little before June. It was like April time frame.
It was April of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't even working, bro. I was not working at all. I had savings, a hope, and a dream, and I was traveling around the world. Like,
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that you had you drove through what the western states, the southern western states, yeah.
literally stopping off at places. I'm
Mm.
grateful for that because it expanded my mindset, and I will never forget that. I just know now that it's a really good idea to like keep money working for you rather than blow through your savings. And now I'm working, now I'm in management. It's much easier to set aside money. I'm really grateful. And just because I've been going for a long time, I'm not going to get into everything that I want to get into, but I will leave off with this. He mentions that his rich dad taught him over a period of 30 years until he was 39. And his rich dad then realized like he finally understood. 39, bro. 39. So sometimes it takes time, but it's okay because everybody will get there as long as they continue to come to book club, read books like this, and take the road less traveled. Take risk. What did you say? Managed risk? Yeah, yeah, something like that. So it's gonna be okay, guys. Money is a form of power, but what's more powerful is financial education. This has been my time. I'm going to pass it off to Ro if Ro has not gone.
All right. Thanks everybody for your insight and perspective. I was just rereading the chapters and I didn't get through it all. Like chapter one is there's a lot to read. But one thing, if you notice in each of these chapters, me and Amber were just talking about this, he repeats himself over and over and over again. He says the same thing multiple different times in the same chapter. And so obviously the lesson one is about the rich. He said the poor people, poor middle class work for money, the rich have money work for them. So he says that like 5,000 different times in this chapter. But there was a lot like that I highlighted, and a lot of people, y'all all kind of touched on a lot of the different things that I would have liked to talk about too. So I'm not gonna like repeat, do my best not to repeat something, but where's the part that I wanted to talk about? I think I wanted to, I don't know if anybody brought this up. I was side note, I've been hustling this morning. I just sold my couch and my dining room table. And I'm like, rich dad, 'cause I got all this money in my pocket. But we're moving, so I need to get rid of all this furniture. And it's just gone. And I'm like, period. Anyway, the part where he's talking about let's see, after Rich Dad hires Robert and Mike to work for him for 10 cents an hour, and they get mad. Well, Robert gets mad and he's ready to quit, and like Rich Dad is teaching him this lesson about life pushing you around. He said there's, let's see, well, he explains to them that like teaching is not just lecturing and talking. Like teaching can be, you know, other like something different than that. That's how they teach in schools, by lecturing and talking to us. He's like life, that's not how life teaches you. And I would say that life is the best teacher, which I really like that. And he's talking about how in life will push you around, and there's generally like two things that people do. Some just let life push them around. Others get angry and push back, but they push back against their boss, their job, their husband or wife. They don't know it's life that's pushing. And so he goes on later to explain, like gets into talking about the emotions and like how people will react emotionally, not understanding that they're letting their emotions like drive their thinking. And he's talking about the fear. He said, like he's talking about if you want to be the type of person that lets life push you around, you can be that. You can be old and decrepit, and everyone will say you were a nice guy, a hardworking guy, but the truth is, let life push you into submission. Um, and he said you really wanted to win, but the fear of losing was greater than the excitement of winning. I really like that. Um, and he goes on later. This is the main point I wanted to make. So he was talking about, because Robert gets mad at him, like, you exploited us, you treated us badly. Like, I want a raise and I want to be treated better. Like, advocating for himself. And Rich Dad was like, you have to change your point of view. Like, stop blaming me and thinking that I'm your problem. If you think that I'm the problem, then you have to change me. If you realize that you're the problem, then you can change yourself. Learn something and grow wiser. Most people want everyone else in the world to change but themselves. And let me tell you, it's easier to change yourself than everyone else. That part is really important because it's so true. And it's like Michael Jackson. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. You have to change yourself and be the change that you want to see in the world. And it really is easier to like change me than to change you. It's easier for me to change me than to for me to change you. And I that is like the easiest hard thing to do. I don't know if I said that right, but like it's like the simplest hard thing to do, because like changing your perspective in your mind is like really not, it's like simple. Just look at it in a different way. And like other people were talking about earlier, when we're stuck in our ways, when we've been taught all these things, it can be hard to change. He talks about in a later chapter, like when a person is used to changing, or when a person is not used to changing, like they'll be more resistant to change. And so like we have to stay open-minded and willing to change our point of view and our perspective, and like be open and willing to learn. And he also explains earlier in the chapter that, or is it later? I think it's after this. But Rich Dad is explaining how he said learning how to have money work for you is a lifetime study. So this is an ongoing process that never ends. Like most people, he said, go to college for 4 years and their education ends. However, studying money, financial education, financial IQ is an ongoing study forever and ever and ever, because he said, my study of money will continue over my lifetime simply because the more I find out, the more I find out I need to know. And so, also, more money will not solve all problems. More money, more problems, like for real. Um, if we don't have the financial like education and IQ to do with that money, what will benefit us later and bring more money. So I think that's the bulk of what I wanted to talk about. And yeah, I'm really grateful to be reading this book, and like I have a physical copy. Shout out to Amber for giving this to me, and I'm highlighting it and I'm studying it and I'm breathing it and I'm eating it and I'm shitting it because I'm about to be a billionaire. So I um have to continue to like learn and train myself and like apply the information that I'm learning. And I'm at this really transitional point in my life where like this is the exact information that I need to do the things that I need to do. So um I think Marcus, you want to go?
Bow. Great takes, everybody, and I appreciate the insights. I'm excited that we're reading this book again, especially as we are entering this season of abundance. I really do feel like there's a massive transition of wealth that is taking place that has been genuinely building up the momentum over the last 3 years. It's actually wild because when we first got into fully understanding what money actually was designed to be and how it was designed to be used rather than just figuring out how to pay our bills, it literally, we were able to uncover some truths and we got very urgent very fast because we understood the signs are very in your face. Just most people don't recognize them because they don't know any better. We're taught to focus on how to solve our problems by working harder, right? And that's why I think Mateo touched on it. Most people literally live to work. That's all they live and breathe that, right? And if you are made up of your thoughts, then you literally are what you think about. And if all you're thinking about is waking up, going to work to get the bread, to pay the bills, that's literally who you are. And I'm grateful for the space that we have because once you are aware, you have the opportunity to learn. But sometimes getting aware is extremely painful. And that's like, as I was reading through chapter one and the introduction again, there was just a few things that stood out to me now, the fifth time that I read this book, that in my current life, that I'm like, yo, this is wild and we're definitely here. And it's been very intentional about applying these principles more strategically and more consistently every time I read this book. So, Nofo, I think it's dope, bro, that this is either the first or going to be the first time you read the actual copy of it. To anybody else who's read this copy more than just one or two times, just understand like there's a specific lesson that is going to stand out for you while you're reading this book and what you've got going on. That's going to give you the opportunity to take what you've learned through your experiences, as Rosisi hit on, right? The lessons that life has been teaching you and that you've been showing up to go and learn. But now you have an even clearer understanding because you can not have to fill your mind with the things that you have been implementing. You can fill your mind with new things and the actual default changes, right? What I've learned and what I got reminded in a synopsis of intro in chapter one is that all wealth truly is, y'all, is a breaking down and tearing of old patterns and ways of thinking in order to think new thoughts that lead to the abundance that comes in what we track as money, right? Money is a literal made up concept. And going to the story about the nickels and them creating it, it is literally what the Federal Reserve does. If you don't know about the Federal Reserve, you should do some research about how it is a financial entity that operates as a private business. Most people think it is owned by the government because of the word federal in its name. It is not. It is an agreement upon the most wealthy banks of America that have established an entire signed document with the government to go and provide money to the United States of America when they need it with the ability to print as much as they freaking want, right? And if you've got the hard copy, there's a additional chapter at the beginning called 2020 Hindsight. Yo, this is crazy. There's like charts, and every time I've read it, it always stood out to me. But now that we're in 2025, right? It's about 10 years removed from the information that is in this. It is actually wild to see how the financial and currency system that we currently operating on is literally changing, and it's changing extremely fast because we can see the actual crashes that happen in the economy, which are cyclical, and what they actually look like when they occurred versus what the crashes are looking like in today's economy, right? I think one of the biggest ones I want to point out to, if you've got the hard copy, you'll see it. But literally this graph on page 4, it talks about the giant crash of 1929. If you guys know about the giant crash of 1929, we're talking about like the Great Depression, right? When things really hit the fan after the roaring 20s, when the United States was doing extremely well. Boom, we hit the black market, or excuse me, we turned the stock market into that Black Friday and things went south, right? That little arrow, it's like a small little downfall, is what caused the greatest economic distress period of our history as a country, right? And then we fast forward between 2000 and 2015, and we can see the metrics of how much capital has been printed and the type of crashes that occur after a large push in the market. Y'all remember, right, what happens in the charts? What goes up must come down. So when the crash happens, it's going to happen something serious and there's going to be a massive change, and it's been leading to where we're at today. And the main thing he talked about is printing money, right? The largest amount, like trillions of dollars, were printed between 2010 and 2014. Y'all, we're in 2025. This is not accounting for 2020. Who remembers where the government sent everybody $1,200 in the United States of America? We are currently still seeing the repercussions of just printing massive money out of air. And this is like the point I wanted to drive in on, is that like money is completely made up, y'all. If the government decides that we're going to be using rocks and they have the supply of rocks to give each person, then we're going to be using rocks. And your car is going to be worth X amount of rocks in order to actually order. It's just an agreed upon value system between all of society. And as that freaking changes, you've got to recognize that it's your thoughts that lead to the actual wealth that you want. I collect rocks. I'm gonna be rich. Hey, I feel that. Quit playing. I'll go outside right now. Go get me some limestone. I'm just kidding. No, some granite. Let me go real quick. There is a portion of chapter 1 where he spoke on your thoughts, right? It goes, being a product of two strong dads allowed me the luxury of observing the effects different thoughts have on one's life. I noticed that people really do shape their lives through their thoughts. He said that his poor dad was poor not because of the amount of money he earned, which was significant, but because of his actions and the thoughts that he took. You can have an extreme amount of dollars in your bank account. But if you do not have the financial literacy behind it, it does not matter. You will operate in a sense of lack because of your thoughts and who you are as a person. And that's why we like focus so much on personal development. Like it's not about the money. Like if it will, the money comes as a byproduct of you as a person and what it is that you're doing with what it is that you've grown within yourself. So I think where he talks about that money is one form of power, but that it's the financial education behind it. Since money comes and goes, you have the education about how money works. You can gain power over it and begin building true wealth. And it's wild, y'all, because I can relate with Amber as well. I felt it when she said, even chopping up and having conversations with my family today, like a lot of my people are more financially aware than what they were. But if it's going to happen, it's going to be because I decide. Like no one else is willing to do what it takes. And so somebody has to make the decision, or that decision is going to get passed on from generation to generation until somebody decides. If you're not born from the wealth, then you either address the issues and the problems to make it better, or you ignore it. And most people just simply ignore it because they don't have to think. I think that's what literally keeps me extremely intentional, is because kind of playing off of what Rosizi was talking about, right? She talked about life giving the better teacher. Imagine how frustrated this man, Robert Kiyosaki, was, right? I don't know if y'all peeped the small, minute details that I did when it came to Robert meeting his rich dad for the first time. First and foremost, when his poor dad was like, you should ask Mike's pop. And one of the first things they said, he was like, bro, what do you mean ask my dad? Like, we don't even have a nice car. I don't know if y'all peeped that part, but he was like, dude, you don't need a nice car, nice things to have and use wealth right. He was like, his banker is my banker, and his banker likes him a lot. So you should see what's up. Then he shows up to Mike's house, and he talks about him having like being claustrophobic a little bit because the house was so small and the living area was not described in a positive light. Like he talked about it being dark, dusty. He talked about it being like really, really small. And if you think about it, this is definitely his rich dad because he's explaining the story in hindsight. But if you don't know who this man is and you don't know what it is, and you're basing a status of wealth on looks and possessions, then you're thinking this dude don't have his bread, but he has literal like employees in and out of his office at the crib. And Robert Kiyosaki's like, I'm about to learn from this dude. And this is what it looks like. He's 9 years old and he's paying me $10 an hour. Robert Kiyosaki feeling like a slave in that process. And he was like, why am I being exploited? Right. And Roshizi talked about the life of the lesson, but further on, I really wanted to touch on this and then I'll pass the mic. But when he talked about being put into submission, I think it's extremely important, y'all, because if you like just observe the activities, the habits, the conversations, and the situations of those around you, it'll be very clear that most people are simply never going to make the decision to live an abundant life. And that's why 95% of people operate off of a lack of financial principles, right? And he goes, if you're the kind of person who has no guts, you just give up every time life pushes you. If you're that kind of person, you'll live all your life playing it safe, doing the right things, saving yourself for some event that never happens. Then you'll die a boring old man. You'll have lots of friends who really like you because you were such a nice, hardworking guy. But the truth that you let life push you into submission, deep down, you were terrified of taking risks. You really wanted to win, but the fear of losing was greater than the excitement of winning. Deep inside, you and only you will know you didn't go for it. You chose to play it safe. And I think I believe the reason why he made this like one of the first lessons to really implement for Robert Kiyosaki is to know that, like, bro, no one cares about how you feel, bro. Like, yes, you have people that love you, but everybody's got their own situations and problems that they're trying to figure out themselves. And most of the time, life is genuinely going to push you around, and you're either going to be motivated by one of two things: a drive to go and make it better, or you're going to be stagnant because you feel like there's no hope. I saw a reel by Alex Harmozy. It was actually crazy. He was reading a comment. It was actually wow. He was reading a comment on one of his posts, and the man talks about, or somebody was saying, like, it's okay to not feel good. It's okay to cry. It's okay to not be okay. Right. He's like, then that person commented, this is extremely toxic positive, and you shouldn't invalidate emotions. After Alex Harmody read this, he was like, look, I'm not saying you can't feel bad. What I am saying is it takes the same amount of energy to have a positive outlook on things. What it is that you are working towards, what it is you're going through, all it comes down to is your paradigm. And if you're truly more excited about what is to come versus being fearful of losing, you'll push all your energy and attention towards actually figuring out and staying in solution mode so that you can continuously ask, like, okay, it's not that I can't afford it, it's how can I? It's not I need more money. It becomes the question, how can I serve more people? And in what manner? Like it all comes down from the mindset. And if you maintain with the right perspective, then as he said, you'll go and ask the questions. He said most of the people ask him for a job and a paycheck, but never teach them about the money. So most will spend the best years of their lives working for money, not really understanding what it is that they are working for. Doing things without a clue of why they're doing it, because majority of the planet is also doing it. Right, in The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, you can go up to the street and ask any individual why they get up out of bed, and they'll say, well, everybody gets up out of bed to go to work. I'm going to work. It's actually crazy. You guys, anybody on the street, what it is that they truly want, and they won't know. Majority of the people you run into. And if you make the decision to actually operate with wealthy principles, for things to change, you first must change, right? He told Robert Kiyosaki, you best change your point of view and stop blaming me and thinking I'm your problem. If you think I'm the problem, then you have to change me. If you realize that you're the problem, then you can change yourself, learn something, and grow wiser. In conclusion, get out of the window and start looking more often in the mirror. Everybody be looking at what everyone else has got going on. Everyone looking at on what's the best scenario when you go and try to blindly do something and there's some weaknesses or some defaults and some flaws that you don't even recognize in yourself that are keeping you from hitting a new level. You've got to go and do the deep work. You got to do the thinking. Most people do not like to think, right? They turn their brains off when it comes to financials and money. I don't want to know how to make the money. I just want to show up so that you pay me the money and I can go home and turn my brain off. Go and look at the people that you constantly are around to date and peep the activity. You know what I'm saying? If most people are spending their free time watching shows, mindlessly scrolling, gossiping, no one's thinking about how to improve. And I recommend if you see more of that around you than you see people talking about solutions. I think Jay-Z said it, or I don't know who it was, but no, I lied. It was that man, Mikhail. We were gonna get training from him. We talked to his son. I don't know why his say it again. Yes. Yes. Say it. I think it started, but unmute. I can't read your name. I can't read your lips. I see the B. Bro, just help it out. Thank you.
I'm just trying to help you demonstrate what you're talking about
Yes,
not turning
yes, go
your
ahead.
phone off. Hey, I was trying to help you demonstrate thinking, and you weren't trying to think and read my lips. Holton Bugs
Holton
is
Bugs. Thank you. Holton Bugs. So Holton Bugs talks about this, but like if you want to go make $1 million, when's the last time you've actually had a conversation with somebody to make $1 million? Like, why aren't you having the conversations? Why aren't you talking about the things that actually get you to where you want to go? And it really does comes down to actually developing the right mindset of knowing what it is a part of you that you can change in order to learn and then grow wiser to go and get a possible solution for where you're trying to go. Period, point blank. And then the last thing is most people don't see the actual trap that they're in. So whether it's like an emotional cycle or whether it's a relationship that you're holding on to or a actual way of thinking that keeps you limited more than abundant, be mindful and be aware of where you are holding on to the shackles that you might have already freed yourself from, but that help you feel more comfortable with the situations that you're going through, right? Sometimes we run towards the things that we're familiar with or the things that we think that provide us a benefit because it gives us a momentary distraction or relief that we don't go and actually resolve the issues that are going to get us the actual solutions that we're seeking and are wanting to actually go and create. But y'all, I'm excited for the rest of the book and the rest of everybody's takes as we go through these lessons, especially as we all step into a new tax bracket as well with the avenues and with the resources and the assets that we continuously build up, especially ourselves and being a more person of value. So I appreciate y'all. And then I guess Tia hasn't gone. She's kind of been in and out, and I seen her in the room. But other than that, Mikhail can close it out.
hear her but talking in the other room too. So I know she didn't even catch that part. But in that, we also did just text about we're gonna grab there's like a kid version of this, and over the duration of us reading this on book club, we're also just gonna read it to the kids. So it's something we're about to start today. But um, amazing takes, everybody. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie, everybody snapped today. Whole squad did. I appreciate everybody for doing that thing today. Um, I just want to talk about one last thing it's an underlying thing that everybody's spoken about, but nobody really spoke about. So I didn't want to reiterate everything that everybody else dove into over intro in chapter one, because ultimately time. But I want to talk about when he talks about learning to think with your emotions, or excuse me, learning to use your emotions, not to think about your emotions. And, or excuse me, not thinking with your emotions and using your emotions instead. There is an underlying part of this paradigm shift that happens that majority of people don't really talk about in this book. And it really starts in belief. Like you cannot start to change your thinking from like, I can't afford it to how can I afford it if you don't believe that you can afford it, you know? And that's a very big thing. And a lot of people talk about moving out of faith versus fear and not letting fear and greed determine or impact our thinking and how we move. But ultimately, if you don't believe that you can think and move a different way, you can't transition your thinking. You're going to hit this imaginary invisible wall continuously, and it's just not going to shift. And it's one thing that we talked about last night. I went to this thing, I did this thing over June. It was called the Be the Man Challenge. I sent it inside of TGF. I sent the flyer in there, the whole nine. So people could have tuned in. I don't know who did tune in, who didn't tune in last night to the joint, but the event happened last night. We heard from three amazing speakers, and I just wanted to really dive into, because he brought up an amazing point that's honestly been on my mind as everybody's been talking. When it talks about like what we're talking about, like, so one, real quick, we're going to train ourselves how to respond with logic and strategy instead of reacting emotionally today, because that's the difference between letting your emotions use you or using your emotions. And that's one of the main things that we're talked about inside of chapter one as well. So in that, before we even get there, I just want to talk about the fact that like when we get emotional, it's because there's something that we're facing in our life, and it's like a lion. And what the pastor talked about last night is like we all have lions. So low key, I'm gonna save majority of this for a future value session because he snapped yesterday and my mind was moving. But in that, let's just talk about these dark lines, and one of them being the financial world that we're all trying to get a grip on and figure it out. We've talked about how we've had traumas in our past. We've talked about who those traumas came from. We talked about forgiving those periods and times of our life. We've talked about isolating, you know, and it's like, it literally just reminded me of a story that my man went through last night. So let me pull it up real quick. The story was of a guy named Benaiah. I don't know if y'all know this story because I did not know this story before we talked about it last night. Even though we've been reading, I would love for us to pull this up in Bible study. But Benaiah is, he was like the man, like he was really him in the Bible. I ain't gonna lie to you. As they were talking about Benaiah, they're like, Benaiah did this. He was the king of this. He was this, that, and the third. Benaiah was from a little small town, but whooped on everybody. When they talked about him, they talked about how he not only one killed these other Egyptian warriors, they talked about how he saved villages. But there was one specific story that was on my mind, and it was also on Pastor's mind. He talked about Benaiah, who chased down a lion that came to terrorize his village. On a snowy day, he chased this lion into a pit and killed the lion. Now let's think about it and talk about it real quick. One, this lion being your finances. We know how to isolate the lion. We know how to chase the lion out of the village from stopping to torment our people. You either gonna move out of fear or faith in that one, period. You either gonna chase the lion or hide from the lion, period. So the fact that you're on this call means that you're chasing the lion. Great job. You've isolated the lion into a pit. Now think about a snowy day. I live up here in Minnesota. I know y'all Texans don't get too much of this, but truth be told, I bet y'all would feel this better than I would, because in Minnesota, we know how to handle the snow. Period. You catch us on an icy day, most of us ain't gonna fall. You know what I'm saying? I've had a couple falls in my day. You know what I'm saying? But most of us, we ain't gonna fall if it's too slippery. But one of y'all might walk into that cave and really lose your footing. With a lion. The lion's bigger than you, stronger than you. Supposedly he's got teeth, he's got claws. It's a really scary, big ass animal, apex predator. And you walk into a cave with low visibility. Are you finna kill the lion, or are you gonna be like, I might wait till a sunny day when it's dry and I can actually walk around in there? And that's what majority of us do with these lions in our life. We isolate them, we talk about them, we keep them there, but we don't kill the lion. The only reason Benaiah is him is because he killed the lion. And what he talked about last night is these lions in our life, we tend to hesitate instead of just kill them. And what happens is those lions get footholds in our life, and what starts as a foothold eventually becomes a stronghold. He talked about if you ever got a sibling, you know what I'm saying, you ever had a sibling mess with you, they run in there, whack you with something. He told this story about his younger brother who did this to him. Whacked him with a noodle. He caught the noodle. Hold on, baby. He ran up in a room, and while he ran up in the room, his little brother tried to shut the door on him, but he caught a foothold in the door. And then that foot turned into his knee, that knee turned into his butt, the butt turned into his back, and all of a sudden he was in the room and he put the smack down on his little brother. Have you allowed the lions in your life to catch a foothold and become a stronghold? And if you have, do you need to chase them out of your village and go actually kill them? And when it comes to this financial lion in our life, we've all got to actually kill the lion. What's up, baby? Yes, as soon as daddy's done talking, go out there and tell mom that I'm going to be done talking and I'll come out. All right, so go tell her. We'll go out there in a second. So he chased it. He isolated it. He still had to kill it. We get really good at acknowledging the lions in our life, the bad habits, the people who caused us to think this way. But we get really good at isolating the issue, but the isolation does not kill the lion. And as somebody talked about earlier in the call, like you got to do the things. Like rich people just don't do that. Period. I'm not talking about that. I'm not hanging with them people. I'm not going there. I'm not spending my money. I'm not wasting bread on that. That makes absolutely no sense. You know what I'm saying? Like wealthy people don't do that. We're making moves, period. Even if it is a little tight. Shout out Imani for talking about it. Because at the end of the day, you've literally got to kill this thing off. And when it comes down to it, killing a lion is much more difficult than isolating it. It's easy to talk about it. It's really hard to kill off these bad habits. These completely shift your mind into a completely different paradigm where you're starting to think, how can I? Instead of, man, I can't. It's a whole different process to be able to do that. And it's really hard. But ultimately, you've literally just got to understand that. And this is the one thing I wanted to get into why I talked about belief, is because y'all, like, if y'all didn't realize these lions in your life, they have no teeth. They have no claws. Let's rewind it back to scripture real quick, because I want to keep it true to us being a faith-based organization. Bro, the enemy comes to kill, seek, and destroy like a roaring lion. Scripture. A roaring lion. If you guys go and watch Animal Planet or go do a little research on lions, a lion's roar, the older it gets, sounds more menacing, and at its height, you can really hear it about 5 miles away. And it's meant to literally cripple in fear every creature who hears it so that they will stand still. As a lion gets more older and decrepit and they lose their teeth, they lose their claws, they lose the ability to kill out of brute force, other than like if they have the advantage. The advantage becomes their roar. A younger lion will be way more agile. An older lion will roar way more loud, and it will scare the dogs out you. And you will be sitting there paralyzed, and they will walk right up in your face and smack you and break your neck with their paw. And then they can eat you regardless, even with no teeth. That part is what people don't really understand. That is the lion that you are actually facing. It's an old, decrepit lion that is literally just roaring, running around roaring. And the more it can paralyze you, the more it can sit you down to have you just isolate and not actually kill the lion, the more it establishes a bigger advantage upon you who sits there paralyzed in your life. And eventually that foothold becomes a stronghold, and eventually that stronghold becomes something you pass on down to your children. Period. So you just got to kill the lion. Jesus already broke his teeth. Period. When you have the belief of like where you at, whose you are, what you doing, and like who you really are on this planet, what your life is really about, and what you really got sent here to do. And if you believe it, like the word tells us to, yeah, I'm telling you, you'll start shifting your mind naturally This is why people like Myron Golden say, hey, all of this stuff is literally in the Bible. Because if you just follow that, all of a sudden you start to believe in yourself. You start to believe in the visions that you have, the goals that you have, the financial goals and visions that you have going forward. And what happens is you start to think, how can I make this happen instead of I can't make this happen? Because I don't believe that I can't make this happen because the lion is roaring, but we killed the lion. So I actually can't even hear that no more. And you just continue on forward and you step in alignment. It's different. It hits different. The sermon hit me different. I'm excited to eventually take that into a value session and give it to the rest of the people. But I just wanted to give it to Squad because as we get into this book, you can't get like bro who was talking about, I've been recommended this book a million times, but I'm reading something about sales. Bro, if you can't figure this part out, and I'm glad he walked into a church meeting because he's figuring out this part. But if you can't figure the belief part, you'll never fix the follow through. You'll read this book a million times and still not catch the lessons. Period. And it's that part. It's literally like getting out of your own way and understanding whose you are and understanding the instruction we have to live an abundant life and then going and following through on that. And that's what gets lit, y'all, like truly. And then you can get into emotions, fear versus faith. Of course, you'll move differently. Then we can get into, okay, if this is on my head, why? I don't even need to do that. You know what I'm saying? You just move completely different and it puts you in a different space. And I just wanted to talk about that before we even went into anything about studying money or what the schools are talking about. I took notes on it all, but ultimately, like everybody just never studies the things that actually make a difference. People will study how to sell, they'll study how to balance their checkbook, but they won't study how to go and build an asset. They won't study how to change their belief because that's what got you here. Your belief created the thoughts created the habits created the lifestyle. So start with the core and stop putting band-aids on your life, period. And go to the deepness. Actually go there, like Marcus said, do the shadow work, do that self-work that happens in the mirror rather than in the window. And what will happen is you'll completely change the person you are looking at in the mirror. And while you do that, once you read these things, you'll implement them in a completely different manner. And as everybody's been doing spiritual work over the past year, I literally see the fruits because it's conditioning the way you guys have been thinking. And I'm watching everybody's whole mindsets be different. I remember the Imani that read this book a year ago, who barely wanted to read past chapter 6. I remember that Imani, you know what I'm saying? It was a whole different vibe. It was a whole different time in life.
And that wasn't me, man. I've read this book before. I read that chapter all the way through.
Listen, he was like, bro, I ain't gonna lie, there's a point in this book where I just like, I'm not getting that part. And now to see how fired up you've gotten, even as you did finish it through, bro, it hits different, truly. And ultimately, it's because people literally have been working on their beliefs. So I just wanted that to be a part of the first discussion as we enter this book into this next season of our life. It's literally about the belief. You change the belief, you can change everything else. And that's the determining factor for shifting everything, because that was the difference between Robert and him listening to his rich dad versus his poor dad. He absolutely believed everything that his rich dad said, period. So that's where I'm gonna end it. And we're gonna move into next week. We're gonna get it cracked. I'm excited. I felt like everybody kind of covered everything. So I was like, all right, bet. I was really excited to go through this part. I ain't even gonna lie to you. So with that, I appreciate everybody covering everything from the intro and chapter 1. As we move forward, next week is chapter 2 and 3. We're not doing 4 this week, yeah. And look at it, boom. So yep, chapter 2 and 3. Let's get it cracking. I will see y'all next Saturday. Invite somebody, you know what I'm saying? Let's continue to vibe out. Send the recording out if you can. I'll be doing that to a lot of people, but let's tune in, y'all. I appreciate y'all being here, and let's have an amazing Saturday, y'all. God bless.